All right, it looks like we're live. Welcome, everybody. I am chatting with my friends and fellow authors, Amanda Flower and Julianne Lindsey. I'm super excited about this. We're just going to kind of hang out and chat and just talk about all kinds of fun author things. If you guys have any questions, just pop them into the comments and I'll be checking every once in a while. So it's kind of free for all, just asking. You can ask about our author lives, you can ask about our books, all those, our characters, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, so welcome, guys. I'm so excited you guys could join me.
Thank you.
Yeah. So first off, just for people who may not know who you are, I'm going to have each of you tell us who you are, what you write, your series and that kind of thing, just kind of briefly. So Amanda, how about you go first?
I'm Amanda Flower, and I write several cozy mystery series. And I'm probably best known for Amish cozy mystery set in Ohio. I live in Ohio. And I also write some paranormal cozies, so like completely on the two ends of cozy land. So I have magic in Amish, but no magic in Amish. But my latest book was Lemon Drop Dead, and it came out a couple weeks ago, and it's one of my Amish series, the Amish Candy Shop series. And this is officially my longest running series. It's 9 books now, and there'll be 2 more. So that, wow, you know, for an author, that feels really good. It doesn't always happen that way. So
oh yeah.
I'm very excited to have some longevity with some characters. So that's pretty much me.
Cool. How about you, Julie?
Okay, so I also write cozy mysteries. I write romantic suspense for Harlequin, but I think we're going to talk cozies tonight.
We can talk either. So if you want to ask questions about her romantic suspense, go ahead.
Okay. Well, if you have romantic suspense questions, I'm down for that too. I write that as myself. So I write under a couple of different names. I write the Cider Shop series under my name, and that's a cozy series. And this one is the Cider Shop Rules. This one's coming out in July. It's been a while since the last one, so that's exciting for me. I also write a Seaside Cafe mystery series, but I write that as Bree Baker. Not everybody realizes that's me. I tried really hard to keep it separate. The first year, I don't know why, getting my head around, oh, I'm this other person. And that was silly because, you know, maybe my readers would like to read other things. So this is the latest Seaside Cafe, and few people probably know me from these. There's another Christmas tree series coming out this October for Christmas, or not a new series, a new book. And I write those as Jacqueline Frost. And that's me.
Yay. Awesome. Yay. Very prolific, both of you. So I want to talk a little bit about growing up. Where are you guys from? Where did you grow up? What was your family's like, you know, and kind of when did you know you wanted to be a writer? So Julie, why don't you take this one?
Okay, well, I grew up in Canton, Ohio, which is about 45 minutes, maybe south something from here. I'm not great with directions. I live in Kent, Ohio.
Football Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah. Football Hall of Fame, yeah, that's right. That's where I grew up. And we live near the Kent State University now. I live in Kent. And I was an only child, so I did a lot of reading because it can be incredibly boring when you're the only child. And I talked to my parents a lot. We had a great relationship, but I also, you know, they get boring, or long road trips, or even just going to the mall. So I always had a book and I'd just read. I didn't know I wanted to be an author until I read Twilight and realized that authors weren't necessarily people that went to college and, you know, I don't know, authoring wasn't like a job that you just checked off, like I want to be a lawyer or something. And when I realized she was just a stay-at-home mom that had a story that she wanted to tell, and I was 30, 33 before it was like, oh, you mean I'm allowed to do that? And so I've been working on that ever since.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I did not know that about you. That's awesome. How about you, Amanda?
I live almost in the exact same area as Julie, so we're in the same Sisters in Crime chapter as well. But I grew up in a suburb of Akron, and the way I grew up was a little bit different. My mom was a Presbyterian minister, so some people know that about me, but growing up in like the 80s and 90s, I'm 41 to give you an idea. It wasn't very common to have a woman pastor like you do today. So I was very outspoken in defending my mother as a little girl. And I have one brother. But I was like Julie, I always had a book with me because my brother and I do not have the same interests at all. And he's a couple years older than me. And so like I much prefer to do like the quieter things like craft and write and read and be in my room when I was a little girl. But I knew I wanted to be a writer when I was 11. I was reading a short story I wrote in front of my 6th grade English class, and they laughed at my story, and I was like, wait a second, like this can be like a job, like I can. And I knew I wasn't going to be like in the performing arts because I was painfully shy as a child. Like even reading that story, I'm sure I was like, oh, you know, but I was like, I can write it, you know, so that from there, I just kept scribbling away and working to eventually get published. So yeah, that's pretty. In my first book, it took me, I tell people this to encourage them. It took me 9 years from when I started writing it when I was 21 till it was published when I was 30 years old. So like, so don't give up if that's what you're trying to get to do.
I agree. Yeah, it took me 7 years and 5 manuscripts. So, I mean, and I know people that it took even a really long time. So, yeah. I mean, you know, don't give up. If you want to do it, do it. You can do it. I mean, and like, I think all of us started a little bit. I mean, we didn't start right out of college. So, I mean, or we didn't make it right out of college, right out of high school or, you know, any of that. So, yeah, I think we're all Buckeye girls. I was just realizing that. I mean, born and bred. I'm on the Northwest side. That's where I grew up, but Northwest corner of the state, but still, you know. So I know all of us have pets. We have cats. And we like to have pets in our stories. And so I think readers just love that. So I thought maybe we could chat a little bit about that. Your real life pets and your fictional pets, and, you know, how much fun it is to write them, or, you know, it doesn't have to just be our cats. I know you have goats and all kinds of stuff, Amanda.
Yeah.
Why don't you go first?
Oh, I am a huge animal lover. So there are animals in all my books. Actually, the book I'm writing right now, I have a series for Hallmark, and I'm writing the sequel, and it's kind of like a locked room mystery where they're at a ski resort. And I was like, cool. Oh no, she can't take her cat. Like, that'd be weird. So like, how am I gonna make an animal? So there's gonna be some type of animal at the ski resort, I think, just because people would be upset if I didn't have an animal. But probably my most famous animal character is Jethro the pig. And he's been in there's 2 companion series, the Amish Candy Shop and the Amish Matchmaker, and Jethro is in every book. So he's like been in like 15 books or something ridiculous. But when Kensington asked me to do a spinoff series, my editor said, you have to put the pig in there somehow too. So like that was part of the agreement, that he would get even more action. As myself, as a cat owner, I have 2 kitty cats. One of my kitties starting chemo tomorrow, but he's doing very well, and he had a good vet visit, and they think he's got a few more years as long as we keep him on this regimen. So I was very happy about that. And my kitty cats are their call names are Cheeps and Tummy, but their full distinguished names are Reba Cheap and Mr. Tumnus, after Chronicles of Narnia characters.
I love it. Yeah. I know animals, they're such great comedic relief, and also they give like your characters someone to talk to, almost like internal monologue. You know what I mean? Like, how about you, Julie?
Well, here at the house, I have 2 ginger cats, 2 little rescue kitties, and I adopted them when I was in the middle of writing the first Cider Shop book. So I kind of did a rewind. They weren't really in my pitch. I can't remember what animals were in my pitch, but I went back and said, is it okay if I change to cats? And so we put them in my books, and now they're on all the covers, which is exciting for me. My cats' cartoon versions are on the covers. And in the Seaside, you know what? I don't think I have. Oh, I do. I do. I was wrong. The cat plays a smaller role in my Christmas series, but her name is Cindy Lou Who. And
Oh,
then
Aw.
in the Seaside Cafe, I gave them the book a cat because always a cat, but also I mentioned that there was a seagull that was always kind of, she thought kind of came with the house. And people latched onto the seagull, she calls him Lou. And so Lou is always on my covers. I don't know if you can see this, but like he's got
yeah.
a hat,
That's so cute.
a seagull.
That's
So,
cute.
yeah.
I know. I in my Lady Darby, well, both of my series, they move around too much. So I have a lot of
Yeah.
trouble giving them an animal because I feel like it's too cruel that they would be carrying this cat around, in a
Yeah.
carriage, So I always insert him whenever I can, my main cat, Earl Grey. But anyway,
Oh,
they just are so fun, like, and they're their own little people. Anybody who has a
Yes.
pet knows that, right? I mean,
Mhm.
so we have talked about this before when we've been in like author panels and stuff together at conferences and things, that we all plot significantly differently from each other.
Oh, yeah.
Or not plot. I mean,
Yeah.
we all write our writing process. And I thought we'd talk about that a little bit because I just think it's really interesting that, for any authors that are aspiring, there is so many ways you can do it. So you just really have to experiment and find what works for you. So Julie, you are a big plotter. So why don't you tell us kind of a little bit about your process? So.
All right. And you're so right about it being, when I started out and I would read everything and I wanted to do things how, the successful people did them because I wanted, a formula or a recipe for success. But the more I write, the more I realize it's like everything. It's just different. It's your personality and how your brain works and and there's no way around that. And when you try to do it differently than how you work, it just leads to extra procrastination. I think.
Oh, yes.
Enough of that without me. So for me, I really, really thrive on like hyper organization. It makes me feel in control. Don't everybody that for a minute. So I outline. I just pretty much I do, Roman numeral number 1, that's chapter 1. And then I just do letters A through whatever, but I put everything, just bullet points that way and what goes in every chapter. I know I want to write 80,000 words for Cozy. I know that's roughly 25 to 28 chapters for me. I know I want to drop I always kill someone right away and get onto the investigation. So, I'm introducing or reintroducing everything in chapter 1. I know someone's dying by the end of chapter 1 or maybe 2. And I want her to be in danger by chapter 3. I want, so I have these key kind of plot points and I just fill them all in. So by the time my outline is done, it might take me 4 or 5 days or even up to a week, depending on real life. But in the end, you can go back and read the one-liners all the way through and the story is completely laid out so that when it's time to write the story, I just address each point and, make that a couple paragraphs or whatever it takes to really flesh it out. And I write a chapter a day. When the chapter is written, I'm done. I reread it. I send it to 2 girls that have been reading for me since the beginning and I'm done. Then I can go, I can go on with my day without wondering, did I do enough work? Should I get back to work? Am I going to fall behind? And that's
so did you, I know, I'm sure you came up with a lot of this with experimentation, but did you find that kind of the outline where certain things should fall? She needs to be in danger here, those kind of things from somewhere, or was that just something you figured out as you read books? Just for I'm asking for aspiring authors who might be interested in that. So
well, here's how I did it. I had never written and I had never read any cozy mysteries before I wrote one. And same thing with when I was going to write for Harlequin. When opportunity came up, I had never read I hadn't read a lot of the intrigue line, but that was specifically what I wanted to write. And editors and agents often reject new writers for pacing problems or, not really understanding how they work. So I went to NetGalley, where for those that don't know, you can make a NetGalley account and you can get books that are maybe not coming out for 6 months for free. And your role in that is you just put up an honest review and talk about them. And hopefully that builds some really good buzz for release day and creates quotes that they can use in marketing. And so it's good for them, it's good for you. I went to all the major publishers of the genre, or for my romantic suspense, I looked specifically for Harlequin intrigue. So I got as many books as I could. That was what I wanted to write. I got a notebook. I wrote the title of each book on a line, and then that line, you know, the first line would be all the way through, and the next page was chapter 1, chapter 2, till I was about, you know, however many pages. And I made notes of what the most important things were that happened in that chapter. If it was a meet cute, if it was a danger element. And after I had read maybe 5 or 6, I started noticing distinct patterns. So by the time I had read a dozen, I knew this is roughly where everything goes. And I created my outlines based on that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that is amazing.
That is such a
that is
good
a very
way to
amazing.
do that.
And this is like we say, you learn to write by reading is one of the big things, reading and writing. So anyway, Amanda, you are much more of a pantser. Yeah. So I'm saying everybody's different. Like some people, like the idea of making an outline is torture. They just want to write. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I mean, that's what we say. Everybody's very different. It doesn't mean, you know, one book is better than the other, clearly, because there's amazing authors who do it every way. So how do you handle it?
Well, I am the opposite. I usually know some like very rough idea, because pretty much unless I'm writing like trying to sell outside of my genre, I sell my books on a paragraph now. So like I send a little pitch to my agent and she disperses it to mostly to publishers I've worked with before. So they know I can produce a book and, you know, that sort of thing. So I have usually a paragraph and I'm like, oh, and now I agreed to write, you know, 80,000 words or possibly 3 books on this 4-sentence, whatever it is that I, one thing about me is I could write you a pitch so fast. Like there's no lack of ideas, and I can, you know, I know somebody has to die and all these things, and I can write it so fast. So like when my agent asks for one of those, like I'm like, sure, and I send it to her really quick, and then, you know, months later after she sold it, I'm like, who are you? Like what is this?
Where did this idea come from?
What is this thing? But basically how I write is I'm a pantser. I write what is called a fast draft first. So in a way, it's sort of like writing a very ugly and wordy outline. So it's just throwing words at a page, essentially. And I just finished a rough draft, which is my fast draft for the book I'm writing. And it's 40,000 words short and it's terrible. But it's the skeleton of the book.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And now that I'm going back in, I'm a big user of track changes. So I can see like every draft I turn track changes on. So it's like by the time I'm done, there's like, you know, 5 colors or something on it. But for me, that like I can read it. My husband looked at one of my books and, you know, it's like neon with all the different track changes. Like, how can you read that thing? I was like, it makes sense to me. Like
it works for you.
Yeah, it works for me. So like every draft, I probably rewrite it beginning to end, and I'm not typing every word, but going over with track changes 4 times before I turn it in. So it's more like I'm making, the analogy I use when I teach classes, it's like making a cake. I have the cake and then I continually make it pretty. And by the end, you're like, wow, that's a gorgeous cake. And you're like, well, you didn't know what it looked like originally. Like it was a mess. So
it's like you're fleshing it out. I mean, you're just building
each
it out.
time it gets better and better. Yeah. So that's pretty much how I do it. I did try, because, you know, like when you're starting out as like early in your career, I think Julie kind of spoke to this too. People are always telling you like how you should write, and you feel obligated, maybe not during the pandemic, but at the time, like when we were starting, like go to writing conferences, go to all the classes, do all the webinars. And I would do all those things, and then I would try to force myself to outline. And sometimes I'd have this beautiful outline, and then when it came to writing it, it was just like went off the rails. And I'm like, I wasted 2 weeks on an outline, so you just have to figure out really what works for you. And I've figured this out. My agent told me for years. I've had the same agent for over 10 years, and she's like, this is just how you are, and it's okay. Like, she's like soothing me, because like sometimes I do get a little bit, just to be honest, anxious that like, why can't I do it the more efficient way? Like, why aren't I efficient? And she's like, no, it's okay. I know you're going to cry every time you write a book, and that's okay. Because like I get to this point where like I have a mid-manuscript nervous breakdown, essentially. So I'm like, I don't like this book. I was crying the other night because I was telling my husband, I was like, I know who the killer is, but I don't know why they did it. So, like, and he's like, well, you need to figure that out. So, he sometimes he'll talk me through it, and he'll say these like very outlandish plot ideas, like that I know aren't going to necessarily work, but him just saying them like gets my brain, thinking,
right.
And I can figure out something that's more plausible. But yeah, so that's a very long-winded answer. That's also how I write, so it's perfect.
Yeah, so I figured out I'm kind of in the middle. I call myself a plotzer now. I heard that from somebody, and I was like,
that's amazing.
Perfectly. You know what I mean? It's like I have to know where I'm going to a certain extent, but it has to be pretty vague too, because my characters just go off, like the story just goes off, like how it wants to go. And if I plot too tight, then I just end up wasting my time, because my characters always come up with better stuff than I do. I don't know why. They just do. It's that inspiration of your subconscious. But I gotta have something to go on, because otherwise it's anxiety. It's that like a little bit of control over this book, like somewhere in the middle, I know I'm gonna have a freak out moment about this is never gonna work. This is the worst thing I've ever written. Like, I'm just gonna give up, like every time, somewhere in the middle. And then my husband's always like, you do this every time, and then it turns out fine. And I'm like, I know, but still.
I always say that this is the one that's gonna break me. And he's like, you say that all the time. I was like, no, but it is. This one's going to break me. Like,
do you guys get the deadline panics? I get deadline panics every time. At some point, I'm like, I'm never going to finish this book. This is the one.
Yeah, I'll never make it in time. Like, then I start like texting my agent, like, you give me like 3 weeks, and then I turn it in on time anyway after she gets me 3 weeks or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh yes, every time. I mean, and I've stopped picking the killer a lot of times ahead of time, because I keep changing it, and it's like we said, you have to figure it out. You're going to have a freak out moment at some point. I mean, every author goes through this, and it's lovely to chat with other authors, because they make you feel better, because you realize I'm totally normal.
Right.
This neurotic author in me is totally normal. So we do have some questions. So I'm going to pop up and
not
see
alone. That makes me feel good too. I thought, what if no one comes?
We've got lots of people watching, so you have to check the comments when we're done. So one question, let's see, what's it like to work with the artist designer of your book covers? How much input do each of you have? So I'll go first, I guess. My publishers, I don't really hire my cover designers. They handle it. So they have like what's called a cover conference, and I tell my editor like ideas before she goes into that, and I send pictures sometimes of like clothes or like settings or things like that. And then they take it all in, and their art department and sometimes they hire outside artists, and they come up with something way better than I could have imagined. Mm-hmm. So I've been really blessed in that sense. So what about you, Amanda? Is it similar?
It depends on the publisher. So I've probably written for 6 or 7 publishers at this point, all sizes, it's really small, up to like the big 5. And it just depends on the publisher. Some of them want some input from me. Some of them, they upload it on Amazon, and I've never seen it like until it's on Amazon. And luckily,
surprise!
yeah, like, so like there's one publisher in particular that does it every time. And so I just email my editor. I'm like, hey, I saw such and such a title is on Amazon. Could I have the JPEG for my website? That'd be great. And she's like, oh, sure. Like, I mean, very cash. But luckily, I've never had a cover that I've like hated. Like, I've been really lucky in that regard. And like my new series that I'm writing for Source Books, I've only had one book out, and it's Farm to Trouble, and the cover is so different for a cozy. And there's no cat on it. It's not like kind of like the kind of cartoony. And at first I was like, oh my God, I don't know if this is good, because I was so used to the cozy, but I think they hit it, because she said that the art department, she's like, we were trying to go for like a Joanna Gaines thing. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Like if you could sell me to Magnolia, like I'm in. Like, let's do this.
Yes, please.
Yeah, right. How about you, Julie?
Well, I think what Amanda said, I write for Source Books too, the one with the seagull I do for Source Books, the Seaside Cafe, and they'll always write me and just ask me to tell them like elements, a season, if there's a specific, just any kind of thing that deserves placement on the cover. So that's how he got the pirate hat. There was an alleged pirate ghost, so these,
Aww.
I tell him these elements, and then the art department turns it into something like really cool. One of the first series I wrote with Crooked Lane, they would send me pencil sketches. So I could
Oh, wow.
that was really nice. Didn't happen for all of my books at Crooked Lane, but for a couple of them it did. And that's nice because, for example, my first series was in New Orleans. It was in the Garden District, and there is a streetcar that goes there, but it's not on the street that a real street that my shop was on. And so the artist had put the streetcar outside the window because that's totally New Orleans, but anybody that had ever been there would have been like, there's no street, So it does help when we, sometimes, but
right.
for the most part, they just take the smallest things and they turn them into these visual beauties. I'm starting a new series. I'm like going to run with this. I'm starting a new series in the fall called the Bonnie and Clyde Mysteries. And so they're a cozy series where Bonnie's a second chance shop owner, like a dress shop owner, and Clyde is her cat. And I've hired an illustrator to do this. And it's really cool because I will give her some elements to run with, and she'll send me maybe 4 or 5 sketches, different. And I I like the cat posed like this. I really like this dress, this scene. And then she'll move them around, and we'll go back and forth a few times. And that has been the neatest experience, seeing it come together. And then somehow, like a magician, she uploads it on the computer and adds color and will give me different kinds of color versions. And that's been really, really neat. I've enjoyed that very much.
That's cool. I've seen the first couple covers, and they're gorgeous. I love them. And
she's amazing. I wish I could draw, I think, which is why I get so caught up in the cover making. I do stick people, and that's it. No matter how hard I try, I don't get it. So I'm fascinated by people that can draw or paint. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Me too. I'm like, yeah, I love art, but it's like, I'm not, I could do a paint by number. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So we have another question. How has the pandemic affected you in your writing? What is one positive that has happened during the pandemic? So anybody want to pop up and take that?
I got married.
Oh yeah. Oh, there we go.
Things.
Yeah, of all things. I got married and no one got sick.
That's awesome. That's right. How has the pandemic affected your writing, Amanda, in any way, or like?
It's interesting because my books are selling more, like significantly. And I've talked to my editors about it, like, what's going on? Like, and it's just like people want to read our kind of escapist mystery, not, whether it's historical or cozy, like they don't necessarily during a really tough time, want to read something super dark because the world feels dark. So,
right.
So that's been the biggest thing. And because of that, I've gotten, more opportunities to write more things and been able to make choices more than I have in the past. So it's kind of weird I just want to be honest, like kind of weird that it's benefited me in that way. But it also makes me feel good because I know like we are bringing joy to people that need escapism right now. They need something to be like, well, this was a really hard day with like homeschooling my 3 kids and doing everything I had to do, and now they're asleep, or they're an elderly person, they couldn't see family for a long time, and they're like, well, I can read a book and just kind of get through this. So it always chokes me up a little to know that like how much we've helped people because of our stories. Because sometimes when you write genre fiction, you maybe feel like a lesser author, citizen kind of thing. But people need it, they really do, for their mental health and their emotional health in that.
I totally hear you. Like I was going to say, I've gotten a couple messages that made me cry just because, it is an escape for them. It's an escape for us even. Just reading and writing. Sometimes I just want to escape into my writing because it's somewhere I can control, and I know there's hope, and like there's going to be justice, and all those things that we don't necessarily get in our real lives. And so, and that happy ending, and those kind of things. So yeah. How about you, Julie? You have 3 kids that are in school, and so I know the pandemic's affected you.
Yes. Well, when it first started, it was kind of nice. I'm totally introverted. I think I would make an excellent like agoraphobic, not to make light of that, but I could easily live in my house as long as I had the internet. But I find that most of the people I see and talk to are online anyway. And if I had a way to stay home instead of go out, I would prefer to stay home. I barely even go on my back deck. I don't know, that's just my thing. I live right here, and that's good, and that makes me happy, and everything's safe. So when the pandemic happened, it didn't affect me. If anything, I was like, yes. Now when people say, can you do this? Because I think that it's fair to say when we work at home, it's really hard for other people to make sense of that before, pre-pandemic.
Absolutely.
Like, you're working at home. Why can't you just have lunch? Lunch ends up taking 3 hours by the time you drive there and have a good talk and drive back. And people could love me to death, but still not respect that time that I have an 8-hour work day. Ha ha ha. An 8-hour, 12 or whatever. I can't just go. And I'm a people pleaser, so I would often go and then that would just put more stress on me when I got home because the work was still the same amount. I just lost all this time. So, so being home helped me to be more productive, and it relieved that stress of having to go out, which was a stress to me. Having my kids with me was great. My kids are all pretty introverted too, so they were perfectly happy. They still saw their friends online. It was pretty chill here. And then one of the reasons that I started writing to begin with was because Twilight came into my life at a point that I really needed an escape. I was going through some tough stuff, and now hers, of course, is vampires. It's totally a different world, but I've set out to write with that same kind of goal. Like I wanted to give someone an escape when they needed one, because it had meant so much to me when I found that escape as an adult that I needed. So when the pandemic happened and I started getting those emails like you guys are saying, was just thanking me for the break or for the companionship because they hadn't seen their family in so long. Man, I thought, this is what I'm here for. This is my calling. This is what it's about. So again, it feels terrible to be happy in any way with a pandemic, but I saw a lot of good things for me and for what I'm doing.
Yeah, I 100% relate everything you're saying. Yeah, like so many times I'm shaking my head because it's like, yes, exactly. Like, and we're in our own little bubble, in our own little world. And so, I don't know, it's just, like you said, it feels weird to get, validation out of something bad, but it is something good. You know what I mean? Like that, yeah.
And I think my family, I have 3 teenagers, if you count my 12-and-a-half-year-old as a teen. And that ginormous reset was really good for all of us. Like we quit racing to cheer and to ball and to this and to that and to all the senior year stuff. The breaks went on. We were back home, like dragging out board games after a couple months because we were bored with our usual thing. And I felt like it was precious time for me with the people that live here in my home.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Mine's a little bit different because my girls are younger.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was trying to do the kindergartner, help her with school. It was a little, but they don't really do it themselves. So not online anyway. So, but there was a lot of good positives came from it too. And yeah, so, but I'm also glad we're coming out of it. And,
yes.
but I think it's like helped us rearrange our priorities. So
yes.
I'm going to be better about choosing what we're going to do instead of feeling like I have to do everything. Does that make sense? So
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone wants to know what our best advice for aspiring writers is.
Turn back. No, I'm just kidding. No, I always say keep going. I mean, it sounds like tough love, but no one else is going to do this for you. And if it is your passion, I have yet to meet a writer who could stop writing. But I have met every writer I've met has quit writing forever, at least once, because it's all too hard. But we find ourselves writing something else, journal entries or fan fiction, because writers got to write. We just keep coming back to it.
Absolutely.
Keep going.
Yeah. So
Sorry, my 7-year-old's peeking in at me. I'm like, go to bed.
Go to bed. I would say like on similar lines, like, don't give up, but also like, I think trying to get published is like beating your head on a metal door. Like it is really hard and you just have to be determined and eventually that door is going to crack open. And once you get your toe in, like it's completely different. But that first barrier that's in front of you is significant. And like we were saying at the beginning, Anna, you said it was 7 years, 9 years, several years for Julie, I assume. So like, it's not, I think as authors, we meet people that come to book fairs and stuff, and I always get asked like, will you help me write my book? Or I have an idea for a book, and and I'm like, have you started writing it? No, but I have this great idea. So you just have to sit, butt in the seat, and fingers on the keyboard, and you just have to do it, because if you don't want it badly enough, there's a lot of better ways to make money.
Exactly.
Like, there's a lot easier jobs you can have that could probably bring you joy and contentment and everything else. But if this is what you want, I don't think you'll feel content or happy completely doing something else, because it's something internal.
I can't imagine doing anything else.
Very true.
Oh, something else along this lines I thought of, for anyone out there who maybe has a finished manuscript and they can't get it published and they're about to tear their hair out. No one wants to, I can say this from the safety of my home where you can't reach me, but move on to the next manuscript.
Yes.
There might be not a thing wrong with you. It might be a train wreck. I'm not going to lie. If you've never published before, it might be trash and you don't know it, but it also might be fantastic. But writing is not an art to the publishers, it's a business, and the market is always changing. So if they're not buying it, they could be not buying it because they don't think the market's there to sell it and make money. But that doesn't mean it won't be there in 5 minutes or 5 months, because the market's always changing, because people are always changing.
Right.
So just put it aside if you're at that point and write something else. If you're a writer, you can write something else and something else and something else. Because once you sell the next manuscript, like Amanda said, the hardest part is getting in. But once you get in, they will inevitably say, what else do you have? Whether that's an idea or, hey, I've also have this other manuscript that nobody wanted last year. Well, it's a brand new year. So
Right. Absolutely. Some of the best advice I think I got was to keep writing, like, finish the book, polish it up, start submitting it, and start something else. Like, don't don't sit on the same book and be pushing it for 3 years and never write a single other thing, just keep going. Because my first book was horrible. Horrible. It will never see the light of day. It's so bad. The second got better. The third was better. The fourth was better. And the fifth was the one that sold. But I mean, if I had stopped with number one, I never would have been published. So you just gotta, and you learn. The more you write, you learn. That's my biggest thing. Right. You just have to dive in and do it. And you know what? It's a hot mess maybe to begin with, but guess what? We all write hot messes to begin with, and then we fix it. That's why we edit. So I would never turn in a hot mess first draft. Let me tell you.
Oh, no. Nobody sees that. No one sees my rough draft but me.
Well, I'm trying to see if we've got any other, where do you get inspiration for your books and or characters? All over the place.
Yeah.
Say that. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I really think that's the best answer, because I think once, you're a writer and you're tuned in to knowing that you're going to have to write, another book, like everything is fodder. You're like,
yes.
Every person you pass, you're like, oh, I noticed his glasses are slipping down his nose a lot. So that's like a detail, or
every TV show, every book.
Everything.
Everything.
Anything, or just like, the color of the sky at a sunset, or, just anything that, later you can put in your story or paint with words, into your manuscript. So it's, it's hard to give to a specific answer, but other than everywhere, which is what you said.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Let's see. Someone says, this may be a silly question. There's never silly questions. When writing, have you ever thought of yourself as the main character to get the story down and make it easier to get the dialogue out with other characters on paper or computer? I will say this, I write in first person. I'm a little bit different. I don't think neither of you guys write in first, right?
I do.
Oh, you do. Okay. For me, when I'm writing in first person, it's like they're in my head. I mean, like I'm seeing the world through their eyes. So it's a little bit like that, I guess. So for me, yeah, the answer is yeah, just because it's kind of like that. But anyway, go ahead. But I mean, even when you're writing in third person and you're saying she and that, you're still them. I mean, so
right.
Yeah.
I write my romantic suspense is third person, and I write from both the hero and the heroine's point of view. So I do the multiple POVs. All my cozies are first person, and no matter what I'm writing, I feel like it's some kind of, I don't know, it's a thing we do, like some out of body experience or something. I feel like, yeah, I know how the dialogue is going to go because I know what that character would say if I said that to them, and they do feel like parts of myself. And there are times when, I don't know, okay, so I have a question for you guys now. There are times when I'm writing, when I'm in it writing, and someone interrupts, and I feel like they've reached into the pool and pulls me up out of water.
Yes.
And I'm like, what?
Yeah. Who are you?
Agent saving a child from a serial killer. No, there's no blue popsicles. Can't you see that? I mean, it's really like,
yes, absolutely. Like my husband, I had to be like, it's just a quick question. No, you don't understand.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
You're really in it,
Yeah, I would agree too. Like you do kind of get into the character. And I think probably all of my protagonists have like a little piece of me. Now they have different parts of
Right.
who I am, but there's like a little bit. And then sometimes when people I know very well read the books, they're like, oh, that she said this and I could hear you saying that. And I'm like, really? Like, like, because I really thought I was, in her head, but so it is interesting, but I write in first person too. So what's nice about writing mystery in first person, and I've written, I have a short story coming out in an anthology next year, and they wanted me to write in third person, and I've written a novella in third person, and that's a little bit harder for me because I write so much in first person, because in first person you are like, I'm solving the mystery around her, and that makes it a little bit easier to like for her not to understand what's going on, because I don't understand what's going on.
You only see what you can, what you see. Yeah,
we're solving it at the same time.
So I got that wrong. You guys write first person more than, you know, anyway.
Oh, no worries.
So if you got, I think I've gotten all the questions. If I missed some, post it again or whatever, wave at me, readers or watchers anyway. So you guys should check the comments when we're done, because there's some nice ones. So I'm gonna read all that.
Thank you.
Anyway, I wanted to ask, because both of you guys are so prolific, but you have busy lives. I mean, Amanda, you guys are building a farm, a house on a farm,
married
and, like,
last
taking
year.
care of it. And Julie, you have 33 kids. And I mean, but you guys are so prolific. You know, do you have any secrets or any tips, tips or tricks that you could offer to help people who maybe want to speed up, things like that? So
we cry a lot.
We do cry a lot. That's so true. That's probably the most honest thing.
Be prepared to be stressed.
Be prepared to be stressed.
It's a lot. It is a lot of stress, but I don't know. I'm here for it, because I get a real high from that. You know, turning that in and just getting it done. It's like
that accomplishment. Yeah.
So then I just want to do it again. And so it's my own fault that there's so much on my plate. I keep taking on more, but it's very satisfying to me in a way that most other things in my life aren't, if that makes any sense. Like, I am definitely a writer. This is I don't know.
Yeah.
I just do it.
It's who you are.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, I think I'm not super organized with my manuscript, but I'm pretty organized with my writing schedule. So that's what, if like this year in 2019 was like the craziest year. I wrote 9 books. That's that was like too many for me. Like I almost like at the end of the year like was like a blubbering pile. Like I was a mess. So then last year, before the pandemic hit, I knew I was also getting married, and my husband and I were building a house, which got pushed into this year because of the pandemic, but whatever. So last year I only wrote 3 books, and then that felt like I don't know. I was like, not enough. So I'm like Goldilocks or something.
Right.
So this year,
I get that.
Yeah. So this year, I'm writing 7. So I think 6 or 7 is kind of my sweet spot, where I feel like I'm being productive, but I'm not to the point like I can't function. It's too much.
Right.
Probably I prefer to do 6, but we're doing 7. And I write down, like in my notebook, you know, so today's May 20th. So May 20th to whatever week in June, you know, you work on this book. You're getting edits back of another book. You get 1 week to do that. So it's very like organized on the order of what I do things based on deadlines. And then I have like every day I know Julie has a chapter goal, but I have like a word count goal. So that's
what I
how
do.
more I think of it. So, and then I have like right here in my little notebook, I cross off every time I hit like 1,000 words. So I just hit 34,000 before we started, and I crossed that little sucker off. It was so satisfying. It's like, okay, all right, now one more 1,000 closer to the end of this thing. So yeah, but being a pantser, then I have to probably end up deleting 10,000 words and kind of go back. But
I was gonna say, I should say something, because I have some comments popping up. Like, because I mean, some of the viewers are like historical mystery. Mystery authors usually do not write 9 books in a year. That would be
right.
I think because of it's the research and all the other stuff that like is added into that. So like there are certain genres that being prolific works well with and others that do not. So I mean,
Absolutely.
and every author's different. I mean, I have Susanna Kearley. I love her to death. She writes the most amazing books, but she will tell you straight up, it takes her 2 to 3 years to write a book. That's just how she is, you know? And then there's other people who can write 9 in a year and they're great, you know? So
I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it, but it's possible.
so genre is a big part of it. And somebody did ask, is there any genre we would never write? I can tell you I will never write horror because I just don't like horror stuff. I just can't go there. Like,
I probably would say the same. Like my rule is like, I'll never write anything that my pastor mother would be unhappy with me writing. So, you know, whatever you imagine that bar is, like, that's where the bar is.
Gotcha. What about you, Julie?
I don't know. I don't know. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that is like off limits. I'm not saying I would do the genres justice at all, but I don't know.
If the bug struck you, you might do it.
Yeah, I would give it a try. Why not?
That's awesome. So, what have you guys read recently that you could share that you really liked and could recommend? I know people love to have more recommendations. So,
I've been listening to a lot of books on Audible because I think it's pretty common for writers. Like, it's hard to find time to read because you're between your eyes and everything. So I listen to Audible when I'm like running, or I do run slower when I listen to Audible as opposed to like music. But
that's interesting.
And because I'm like paying attention to the story instead of what I'm doing. And then I also, like, if I'm cleaning the house or something kind of mundane, it's nice to have a story to be like, oh, I can listen to my story if I wash the dishes. But I just finished listening to the first Abby Colette mystery. It's like an ice cream shop.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
It was really good, and it's set in not too far from where Julie and I live. It's in the Cleveland suburb. So that was kind of fun to recognize stuff. And then what I'm planning to read next or listen to is I have a bunch of Vivian Chen's books like in my Audible queue, and I just kept buying them. And then I'm like, I should listen to these.
You're gonna do a binge.
So so I read the first one, but it'll be fun to like listen to them because I think that'll be a lot of fun. And I hear all the time, and maybe you guys hear too, like, we don't really have a control of who the narrators of our stories are.
Right.
And sometimes readers will message me. They're like, I love the narrator of your one series. And I was like, I couldn't listen to the other one because I didn't handle the narrator. And I was like, I don't have any control over that. To just
yeah.
So it's just one of those things but if you do listen to audiobooks, the narrator does make a big difference.
It makes a big difference. Yeah. I know I have my favorites.
Yeah. I was going to say, Amanda, you kind of brought this up. We were talking about tired eyes.
Yeah.
Both of us, we were chatting about this a couple months ago, but I have blue light blocking glasses. Like I don't need glasses yet for my eyes, but like I get these to use for working and stuff. And especially at night because my eyes used to get so tired. Like I would get these horrible, like eye twitches and migraines and stuff. But like, since I started using these, oh my gosh, my eyes, like I have not had any issues. Like they don't get so tired looking at the screens. So if you're on screens a lot, I highly recommend. I mean, these were like less than $20 at Amazon. So
anyway. And I have them too, but they're prescription because I do wear glasses. And at first I was a little hesitant, and this is totally ridiculous, but it was mostly because like it messed up my selfie game because like the blue light will show up on like a selfie.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yes. So like I have to be because I take a lot of selfies with my cats. So I have to be very like careful about the positioning or I get like blue reflection. So I was a little disappointed about that, but my eyes are so much better. I can't really,
trade off.
Like, so it's, but just being honest, like I was a little kind of vain a little bit about the
I love that though. What about you, Julie? What have you been reading lately?
see, I'm the same as you guys. Well, I get to read probably more than you do because I listen. Of the, I don't know, 53 books or something, maybe it was 35. I might have flipped it. But whatever books I read last year, only one was actually a book, like a physical book. I listen to books, and I have to drive my kids back and forth to school and wait in the parking lot, get there early, get a good spot. And then my daughter has all these dance classes. So 3 hours a week, I either haul my laptop and work, or I treat myself and say, well, it's not very, conducive. So I'll just listen to my story. And I've been reading a lot. I would say the bulk of what I'm reading is romantic comedy. Probably for the same reason people are going for cozies, like for that break. They make me laugh out loud. I have so much fun with them. I read A Study in Scarlet recently, which was really good. So now I know I'm going to go ahead and keep on with that series. That was
Sherry Thomas's.
Yes.
Yes.
No. Yes.
Oh.
Study in Scarlet. Yeah. Study in Scarlet.
The Scarlet Woman. A Study in Scarlet Women. No, not historical. Sorry, maybe I'm thinking of. Or are you talking about?
No, this was the female Sherlock Holmes and Watson.
Yeah, that's Sherry Thomas. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I know what I read.
You're okay. I was just like plugging in the author there, and then I'm like, maybe I said it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe.
No, yeah, that sounds right. And I reread a lot of those Leigh Bardugo books because I wanted to watch on Netflix the Shadow and Bone books is what I read again. Yeah. And I can't remember what the Netflix show is called. Do you guys remember? I don't know. Well, anyway, I watched the shows, but I wanted to prepare myself. So I reread those because I really like YA too. That's what got me into this. And I like fantasy. So I read some books by Sarah J. Maas recently.
Oh, yeah. Really good. She's wonderful.
Yeah. So yeah, blessed books. We keep, we're like, I compared my brain to like a lemon, when you're like grinding it to make juice. And I feel like our author brains get all juiced out and we got to refill. You got to refill.
Yes. Yes. Refill the well. Oh yeah. Yes. For sure. So, well, we're inching up on an hour. So I want to be sure to talk to you guys about what you guys have coming up next. I know, Amanda, you just released Lemon Drop Dead, which is which series? I'm sorry.
Amish Candy Shop.
There we go. Okay. I was like, it's Amish. And I'm like, I'm going to say this wrong now. What do you have coming up later this year?
So like I said, last year in 2020, I only wrote 3 books. So I don't have a book coming out until November 30th. And it's the 3rd in the Amish Matchmaker Mysteries. And it's called Marriage Can't Be Mischief. Is that? Yeah, Marriage Can Be Mischief.
That's so cute.
And it is set in an Amish restaurant. So if you've been to Amish country and you've been to those restaurants with a big buffet and like the chicken dinner that like fills a whole table, like that's kind of where a lot of the action takes place. So that was pretty fun to write. And then beyond that, I have back-to-back releases in January and February of next year. And so I kind of have this big break of no releases, and then they're just gonna kind of go.
Ding, ding, ding,
like,
ding, ding, ding.
In 2022, it's just going to be like, hold on. So I have the 5th, and it is the final magical bookshop mystery in January called Crimes and Covers from Qriket Lane. I know that series is so beloved, but my agent and I talked about it, and we talked about it with the publisher, and we just feel like it's ending at the right spot for the characters. So to push it into another book, it feels not right thing to do.
Yeah.
And then in February, the sequel to Farm to Trouble comes out, and it's put out to pasture.
Fun!
So then there'll be books beyond it, but those are my next 3 coming out. Yeah.
Awesome. So, and Julie, you have a bunch coming out later this year. I know you've got the Cider Shop Rules coming out, correct? And then you got this new series that you're self-publishing, which I think is awesome.
I do. So I've got in July, I think the last week of July is my next cider shop, the Cider Shop Rules. Then the last week of August is the next in my Seaside Cafe mysteries. It's called Partners in Lime. And then I don't have anything in August, but September will be the debut of my Bonnie and Clyde mysteries. And October will be another Bonnie and Clyde book and another romantic suspense from Harlequin. I think that one's going to be called Kentucky Crime Ring. And then also my next Jacqueline Frost book is coming out that month. And
Busy.
It's called Slashing Through the Snow, which is, I think, the best title ever.
That's hilarious.
November is book 3 in my Bonnie and Clyde series. And it is Stay Hidden, my next romantic suspense. And then in December is another Bonnie and Clyde book. I can't remember what Beating the Rap, I think is what that one's called.
Wow. So you've got like
I have 9 more this year. That's stupid, I know.
No, I'm like, wow.
But
that's crazy. That's awesome. That's awesome. So lots to look forward to from you for sure. So
absolutely.
And then I will say,
what do you have, Anna?
Yeah,
wait.
So I just had A Wicked Conceit, my Lady Derby #9 released in April. And then my next Verity Kent, book 5, Murder Most Fair. I had to look at the title.
Yeah,
so confused.
Yeah, right.
I have this whiteboard now because I cannot keep everything straight. Anyway, I'm like, which book am I promoting? Which one am I editing?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Which one am I writing?
Yeah. Anyway, Murder Most Fair comes out August 31st. So that's, I think, it for my releases this year. And then there's more next year, obviously. But anyway, well, I am so happy you guys joined me. This was so much fun.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody who's watching. And this will obviously be up for replay. So if you missed any part and you want to catch it, and feel free to leave comments and stuff. We love to read your comments. So anyway, thank you, everyone. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful night. And I hope you check out Amanda and Julie's books. So
thank you. Thank you.